Hello everyone, welcome back to SwitchUp and to the episode where we try and damage your backlogs even further. And congratulations to the winner of the free game this week. Your name's on the screen. We're at Gamescom this week, so I've had to make this video a little bit early, but there are still some cracking titles on here. Let me know which ones you've been playing, what you're picking up, for a chance of winning a game this week. Oh, and also, if you want to save yourself some money, buy your eShop credit over at switchup.gg. You'll get 5% back in cashback. You don't actually have to put in any codes or anything, and we get a tiny little kickback from Nintendo. Alright, what are the best games on sale this week? Well, my name's Mark Walker, welcome back to SwitchUp. Now let's find out. First up, we've got the excellent Everspace Stellar Edition. This very rarely sees sales, so if you're interested in it, this is a good time to pick it up. It's 75% off, down to £8.99, and that goes on until September the 4th. This is made by Rockfish Games. They created games back on mobile, some of the best space-based games that we had actually. And it combines the best elements of space combat with a roguelite element that basically means when you die, you respawn as a new clone. But what's good about it is it continues with the story, so you can start a story mission, find out some things, and then when you respawn as a clone with your previous knowledge, you can then carry on. This version has, I think it's 3 different ship types. One of them has a cloaking mode, so as soon as you unlock that, although it's quite expensive, it's so handy if you find yourself in a pinch. You could do various side things, like go around asteroids, fly in between different spaceships, maneuver your way into the literal interior of asteroids as well, and look for treasure and things like that. And there's a crafting system in here that works very well, but also this version includes the Encounters DLC, which has the fourth ship that you can unlock. There's a digital art book and a soundtrack as well, and the only thing to know really with this one is some of the controls are a tiny little bit janky and you need to change the setup. Watch the full review because I go into detail about how exactly to do that, but it's one of my favourites on Switch and a great roguelite. There's also a physical if you can find it. Now this sale, as I say, for Everspace Stellar Edition goes on until September the 4th. Well, this is exciting. Cheers to Gameloft, who have sponsored this episode with Disney Dreamlight Valley, which, although it's been out for a while on Switch, has received a ridiculous amount of free updates, adding in famous franchises like Toy Story, Mulan, and my personal favourite, Monsters Inc. And the roadmap also has a load of free content that's on the horizon. Now, if you're not aware of it, Disney Dreamlight Valley is basically a bit like a cozy life sim, but it has quite a deep storyline to it, where you find yourself on a journey to discover the source of what's known as the Forgetting. You have to build up your friendships with a cast of Disney and Pixar characters, trying to help them uncover their lost memories, but also solving puzzles. If you missed it, this featured heavily in a recent all patched up episode. In fact, it was the centerpiece, and the reason being it is so improved since it first came out, not only from a performance standpoint, visuals, but as I say, the amount of content they've added in. New characters, biomes, quests, features, multiplayer. It is very chill to play, a great one just to relax with, but it also has a lot of depth. The quests I mentioned, you can spend ages decorating not only your house, but you can actually customize the world and place items within it. So we really do have to say a big thanks to Gameloft for sponsoring this episode, and to the developers for all of the work they've put into the game. I'll pop links in the description, the top pinned comment. I'll also pop a link to the all patched up episode that goes over absolutely everything you'll need to know about the updates. If the audio sounds slightly different here, it's because I've added in this game. It's PHOENOTOPIA Awakening, which is absolutely incredible. And finally we see another big price drop. This one's down to just £6.29, that's 65% off, which does match its cheapest ever price. It's basically like old Zelda 2. This one's a side scroller. It's actually open world or semi-open world with 10 different weapon types. There are 50 different enemies, but 12 of the toughest bosses I've ever faced. Not only that, but it has a lovely soundtrack, and believe it or not, the game stretches to about 50 hours. Now I do have a full review of that if you want to go check it out. A great game, and one from Cape Cosmic Games that in my opinion is up there with the likes of Crosscode. It's just brilliant and perfect on the Switch, especially when playing in handheld. It's just 985 megabytes to download, take you about 30 to 40 hours to finish. And as I say, that sale for PHOENOTOPIA Awakening, it's 65% off, down to £6.29, or your regional equivalent, until September the 6th. Games as good as Enter the Gungeon should not be £3.29. Now, although this sale shows itself as 70% off, the base price was reduced after launch, so that's not really reflective of the percentage difference from when it first came out, but still £3 for one of the best games we've got on Switch. The premise here is basically that you're in an ever-evolving bullet hell fortress, trying to get as far as you can through stages. If you've played something like The Binding of Isaac, you'll have a good idea, but this has some very cool mechanics. You can roll around, but you can also knock down furniture and use it for cover. What a lot of people don't realise is there's a full co-op mode in here as well, so you can have someone join you for the whole experience. And the bullet hell comes from things like those boss fights. There's literally the entire screen filled with bullets, but it's always fair and it allows you to dodge out of trouble, and if you're more skilled, avoid damage entirely. As well as the standard mobs, you'll also be facing the cult of the gun dead, who will stop at nothing to try and destroy you. There are different classes, so this isn't just a one class change in weapons style roguelite. This is the class also affects the gameplay and the starting weapons that you have, and of course the guns as well. There are tons of different weapons to use. It completely changes the way it feels, and there's also ridiculous ones in there to keep it funny, things like rainbows and fish that you can fire. Who wouldn't want to fire a volley of rainbows? Yes please. As a download of 4 for free, as I say, 2-player local co-op, there's hundreds of hours of gameplay here. For what? Just over £3. Yes please, that sale for Enter the Gungeon goes on until September the 8th. It feels like roguelite day today, doesn't it? We've got Soundfall that released very expensive. It launched, I think it was over £20, maybe like £24. It's now down to its cheapest ever price. It's 85% off, down to £3.74. The interesting thing here is it uses a rhythm mechanic to allow you to do more damage. So you attack on the beat, and once you're into it, it really does work well. You play as the Guardian of Harmony, who is said to be a musical genius, transported to the world of Symphonia by the composers, sounds like something out of Halo, to battle the forces of Discord. Not only can you play through this one solo, you can actually be joined with 4 of you, either local co-op or online. There are 500 different pieces of equipment here to use, and you're trying to defeat Lord Discord, and to help you do so you've also got 5 different characters. I'd say this is probably one that maybe a lot of you haven't played before. I did play it and I was looking to do a review, but who knows what happened. I mean, I think I've done over 1,000 reviews now, so more than likely I was working on something else. I wouldn't say this is the best in the genre. In fact, we've just looked at one of the best in Enter the Gungeon. This is just decent and worth a pick up at this price. It's 2.4 gigs to download, about 20 hours long, and that's Soundfall at 85% off until August the 26th. I am really pleased to see Cassette Beasts down to a new low price. This is 40% off and just the perfect pickup price, and I'll tell you quite a bit about how it's changed since it came out. Now it's £10.79, and when it launched, Asdin reviewed it and he loved it. He thought it was a very good and interesting take on the monster collecting genre. Basically, how it works is you have your tape cassettes and you record monsters onto them, and then it allows you to play the tape, I guess, and become those. Sadly, they just launched the game too early and it was in a state. And then since then they've released some massive updates, ones that add not only fixes and improvements to the performance, but also new content. With that said, in its current state, I think on the channel this would be scoring high 80s, even possibly early 90s. And I say that because not only can it be played single player, you can actually have someone else join you, which is quite rare for monster collecting games. And it works very well. Then not only that, but you can join up to 8 of you online. There's just far more here, I think, than a lot of people realised. You can glide around, you can fly, you can swim, you can climb. The actual world itself and the way you traverse it feels a little bit more like, an old Zelda game. And then the narration and the way that the story unfolds, it's great. I feel a bit sorry for them that perhaps they didn't get that initial recognition that, well, they deserve. So yeah, here it is. That's Cassette Beasts, 40% off until September the 8th. Tetris Effect Connected I played originally in VR and it was a very nice experience there. But it's still enjoyable if you're playing on the Nintendo Switch, either docked or handheld. And it was quite an interesting direction to take that classic Tetris series with a real sense of, obviously, musical flow. That music, the backgrounds, the sounds, the on-screen effects, everything's rhythmic, pulsing and dancing and exploding in sync to the way that you play the game. And I think in that regard, some people get into almost a flow state with this one. There are 30 different stages, but to keep it interesting, there are also 10 different modes. One of those is called the Zone, and it's new to the series, where you can stop time so that you can get yourself out of a tricky situation or plan your next move. There is cross-platform multiplayer if you're interested in that. There's a spectator mode so you can just watch other people play. And there's local play for up to 4 of you. It is pretty damn incredible the way this one actually plays, and it will surprise you if you just think, I know Tetris, I'm not interested. Yeah, this is a very cool game. The sale for Tetris Effect Connected goes on until September the 8th. It's 50% off. Calypso Media Group are very well known for their strategy games, and you don't often see them go on deep sales. Port Royale 4 is down 65%, and that's certainly a good place to consider picking it up, as it's usually like 45 quid. Plus, I don't think it's the best of the Calypso Media games. There are some great titles they have, but I do absolutely love the setting, and I do enjoy simulation strategy games within this type of world. You can join Spain, England, France, the Netherlands within the Caribbean in the 17th century, trying to build up and improve your colony, basically playing as a governor. It has 4 massive single-player campaigns. The world itself features 60 different Caribbean cities, and it is like open world, and when you're sailing around you will have to avoid obstacles as well, choose different buildings to make, what you're going to produce, what you want to trade between colonies, and there are 18 different historical ship types. I was a massive fan of Sid Meier's Pirates back in the day. I think that's like the tippity top. I loved it. I think the thing with Port Royale is the combat just isn't the best. Once you've got to grips with it, you can have some real fun there, but for me it's the overarching strategy side that keeps it going. And certainly if I was picking it up for 15 quid, I would be much more happy with that. We do have a full review, I think, so you can go check this out. But that sale for Port Royale 4 goes on until September the 11th. This one is for that guy who said I should definitely talk about Oddworld Soulstorm because we never do on the channel, and fair play to him. The Oddworld series has been out for years. I played it back on the PlayStation 1 and it's great, but Soulstorm launched way too expensive. Like, it just was. It was over 40 quid for a series that is much loved, but I don't think it's loved enough to launch at that price, honestly. Now it's down to its cheapest price, about 15 quid. It is an easy recommendation. They basically brought back the original style with Abe. You've got Rapture Farms again. He's on a familiar quest, but they added in some new mechanics to keep things fresh, like a bit of crafting with different tools and things. At its core though, it's basically like an action platformer, but with some Lemmings/Pikmin elements, in that you have these followers who you can control and then get them to do things for you. But it's not just followers, you can also mind control enemies, which then allows you to use their weapons and help your group move forwards. Some nice additions that they went for were things like online leaderboards, so that you can see, how well you've done against other people. It's not a short game either. There's some really good variety between some of those stages. While initially it does feel very familiar, they switch things up quite a bit. Oh, I got it in there. And it's worth checking out. Now, the download size is a bit big. It's 11.3 gigs. It is single player only. And that sale for Oddworld Soulstorm, 65% off. That goes on until August 30th. Now, a lot of you wanted to get the kids pick back, and well, hopefully we have. Nelly Cutelot, the Foul Fleet, originally released quite a while back, but I played through it with my daughter and she absolutely loved it. This was made in the Adventure Game Creator that you can download completely free of charge, but how they got a product like this out of what is a very functional and good engine, but I didn't think it was this good. It's really impressive. Back in the day it was released, or there was an earlier version I should say, that was released on PC, and you could play it in the browser. But this one has full voice acting in English and German, a very, very funny script, which isn't something you can really say about a lot of games. And there are 45 different characters here and 35 locations. If you like point and click adventures, this will certainly be one that you enjoy, and one that your kids can enjoy as well. Nelly Cutelot, the Foul Fleet, is 50% off until August the 26th. The hidden gem this week is very cheap indeed. It's called Otherwar, and we actually spoke about it in a video quite a while back. It was a new release that launched with a 33% discount, and it is still on sale, taking it down to just £3.59. And if you like things like Vampire Survivors, it has some of that about it, but it's also a tower defense game where you have to decide where you're going to place your towers, while controlling your character to also do damage to the enemy and try and keep them at bay. There's no massively deep storyline here. It is very much all about the gameplay. It's also single player only, unlike something like Vampire Survivors. And it's relatively short. There's about 9 different stages, but I think that is reflected in the price. It's just £3.59, as I say. That sale goes on for about another week, so you got a little bit of time. In terms of the bundles of the week, well, the bundle of the week this week is the Action Games bundle at 96% off. That includes Deflector, a very good roguelike game where you play as like a mecha, Syndrome as well as its DLC, and also Warhammer 40,000 Daka Squadron, all for £1.79. That's just pretty stupid, isn't it? That's absolutely bonkers. So that's a bundle well worth picking up, especially now that Warhammer's had its patch to slightly improve visuals. It's not an oil painting, but it looks a lot better. Then a couple of Savaloys. We've got Beautiful Desolation, an old school classic style RPG adventure from an isometric perspective, 95% off until September 15th. A very addictive one in Cyber Protocol that might not look like it, but actually has quite a lot of strategy to it. That's 90% off as well. And then one to potentially avoid, I would say, well, definitely avoid, is Avatar: The Last Airbender Quest for Balance. Someone asked me, is it really that bad? I would say go and check out my review of it. In fact, let's just take 10 seconds of review.
Gameplay is completely uninspiring and doesn't make any real use of the license. The one redeeming factor here is that you can play through the whole thing with a friend in co-op, or you can jump online and do the same. And for that alone, I guess it can have one more point on the gameplay. Gameplay scores 6 out of 20.
So yeah, avoid that one. It really is that bad. Also, Loop 8 Summer of Gods. Not as bad as the previous one we just mentioned, but a nice idea of this loop going on this island and the rest of the world having been destroyed, and a bit like Donnie Darko vibes. But unfortunately, it's so incredibly tedious as you loop around and interview and talk to different people. The process through which you save this place just isn't as fun as it should be, and I was so bored by the end of it. So I would say potentially avoid that one as well. So that's it for this week. Gamescom has been and gone. Was there anything there that you really enjoyed, like the look of? This is past Mark, so future Mark will know the answer to some of that, but do let me know down in the comments. Thank you to our Patreons, our members, all of you that enjoy the content, and as always, for all things Switch, all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers guys, see ya!